increasing the return on investment of insights. That's what I will be talking about in the next 20-25 minutes. Because it's a very important topic. We all want impact with our insights, impact on the businesses we work in, the businesses we work for. We are researchers, so if we want to understand how to increase the impact we are having with our insights, maybe we should do a little bit of research. Not research this time among customers or consumers, but research among the buyers and users of market research and customer and consumer insights. So that's what we did. We interviewed 185 buyers and users of research in a quantitative way, and we did in-depth interviews to get a little bit of clarification and to zoom in on some of the quantitative results with a couple of corporate researchers, 20 in total. So, what were the key results? What did we learn? Well, first of all, a little bit more than 1 out of 4 says that if they would have more money, more budget to invest in market research, they would also have more impact on the business. So actually what they say is, give me more money and I will bring the business better insights, and the insights will lead to more impact on the performance of the company. Here we see that already in 2009, actually, the Boston Consulting Group found that this is not true. There is no correlation at a certain level of investment between how much money you spend on research and how good your insights are, how much impact you have on the business. So this is probably the slide, if you are a corporate researcher, that you don't want to show to the person who needs to give you budget, but it's a good one to keep in mind. It's not about the money. Money is not the issue. We will have no more additional impact if we have more money at a certain level of investment. Because we already spent quite some money. These are, of course, SMR figures. It's the kind of global annual market research spent. Billions of dollars, billions of euros go into research every single year. But if we ask to corporate researchers, look at your share of that bigger pie and try to give us a return on investment number. Try to tell us what's the percentage of your spend that you believe is money well spent. In other words, that leads to insights that are having a true impact on the business. And this is the number we got back, 45%. So that means that only 45% of the money we spend on research is money well spent. According to corporate researchers, only 45% of the insights that we generate are really used. That's what we could state in other words. So for me, it's a little bit like in the advertising industry. And this is, of course, a famous quote from John Wanamaker. Half of the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is I don't know which half. So it's a little bit similar in our industry. We could easily just replace the word advertising by research, and there we are. So sometimes it may feel a little bit like we are in some kind of casino situation. And what do I mean with that? We spend money on research, we spend 100 euros, $100, and we don't really know what will come back at us in terms of impact. So this was a very interesting point, and we said we want to know all about this. So we zoomed in on this aspect when we were doing the in-depth interviews. What is going wrong? What are we doing wrong? And here, the corporate researchers that we interviewed mentioned probably we need to look very critical at not first the impact, but first, how do we spend our money? Do we spend our money on the right things? How do we spend our time? Do we spend our time on the right things? Because that are the two things that you can invest to get more impact. Money and time. So when we talk about the money, they said we should do every year an audit. of how we spend our budget. Are we spending it on the right projects? Are those projects really leading to something? Are those projects really having an impact on the business? And we should also look at, are we still using the most up-to-date methodologies and technologies to do the research? Because every single year there are new ways of doing research that allow you to not only do research better and faster, but also cheaper. So every dollar that is invested, every year that is invested should be one that leads to impact. So do an audit on where you put your money. Secondly, they also said we should be critical for our personal, most precious kind of resource, which is time. And there they mentioned that a lot of the time goes into actually running market research projects, doing them themselves, briefing, collaborating with research agencies. They say that around 70% of their time, on average, as a corporate researcher, goes into project management, if you want. And only 10% goes into understanding the business issue upfront and activating 20%, activating the research results afterwards. And they said that should be different. It should be 1/3 of our time going in each of those 3 buckets. And we should become almost less of a researcher and more of a kind of business consultant, somebody who understands what type of insights the business needs, somebody who goes after those insights and afterwards helps the business to translate those insights into impact and actions that will lead to growth and a better performance of the business. So that's definitely what should happen. Because it's not that businesses don't need insights today. I would even argue that they need more insights than ever before. A lot of companies are in transformation and the world around companies is changing faster than ever before. So that means that a lot of people in those companies are really looking for guidance, are really looking for insights that will help them to understand what's next for them, what's next for their brand, what's next for their company. And that's actually the real role of market researchers in this day and age. Yes, we should be great from a methodological point of view in doing research. We should come up with the best possible insights, but we should also help the business to understand what insights they need and how those insights can be used in their day-to-day kind of reality. And that's why I love this quote from Stan Stununitan. It's a quote he used or he did during an SMR Congress presentation a couple of years ago. And this is the kind of mission and vision he gives to all the researchers within Unilever globally. He says, you guys should inspire the business. You should provoke the business. You should inspire them with the insights and show them where the growth opportunities lie. And that's, I think, what researchers should do. So, how can we do this? How can you as a corporate researcher do this? How can, as an agency, how can you help your clients in doing this? Well, we developed at Insights Consulting a 6-step model to increase the return on investment of your insights. A 6-step model to become more of a consumer-centric thinking organization, or if you want, an inside-led business. I will only focus today on the first step, which is what can you do in your next presentation. So it will be very hands-on. There will be a lot of tips and tricks that you can almost use tomorrow when you're doing your next debriefing. The other 5 steps I will share during my workshop and presentation at SMR Asia Pacific Conference in Macau, and also in a workshop, a longer masterclass here in Amsterdam during Summer Academy. But let's dive into how can you do your next presentation in a more impactful way, which is of course the first step in getting a higher return on investment of your research budget and the insights that were generated via it. We love to present research results in 3 steps: engage, inspire, activate. It's a very simple and basic model because it's about what you do before you have your presentation or workshop, how you do your presentation or workshop in a more inspirational way, and how afterwards you give your presentation, your report, some kind of afterlife. Let's zoom in on each of the 3 steps with a couple of examples. First of all, engage. That's literally teasing. That is literally making people hungry for more, warming up the brains if you want. And why is this so important? Well, in a lot of the cases, when you do a presentation about research results, the people that are in the room are actually mentally not ready for you and for your story. Typically, you have people walking in and they're still processing the previous meeting, or they're still on their phones or on their laptops. You have people who walk in and who actually don't know what the meeting is really about. And you have people who actually don't want to be there because they don't know how valuable it will be. And they think they have something else and more important to do. So in order to overcome this, we need to make sure that people walk in fully informed and really excited about what's to come. How can we create that excitement? Well, here we can learn from Hollywood. What they do in Hollywood is, when they have a new movie, they try to make you curious by having beautiful film posters, by, of course, having kind of teasing trailers. It's exactly what we can do as well. We can tease a little bit. We can share a couple of shocking numbers, interesting consumer quotes up front by hanging up posters in the company's premises. We can even, in the invitation for the meeting, already include a couple of teasing numbers and quotes. And if you have a little bit more budget, or if it's really a very important study, you can even make a trailer, a kind of 1-minute video that is teasing and that is making you curious and longing for more. And one of my favorites is the one you see on the screen. That's doing a little online quiz before the presentation, a couple of days before the presentation, with the people that will actually be there. And it's very simple. You just ask 10 questions about the research results that they are going to see in the presentation. And they almost need to predict what consumers have told us, what the research results will be. So they need to step into the shoes of their customers, of their consumers. And of course, you make it in a way, or you create it in a way that people will not have all the questions right. Ideally, they have like 4, 5, or 6 of them right out of the 10, because that's creating that kind of position where they don't feel totally depressed about their knowledge about the customer, but they also feel like there is a lot more to learn and the presentation will really add value. So be sure, or make sure, that you're sharing also their score immediately after they have done the quiz. You scored a 6 out of 10. Great. And you will score a 10 after the presentation. That's the kind of narrative you should give them. So that's before. And then when people are totally engaged and they walk into that meeting room, they are ready for your story. And then it's about you giving a great presentation. So how can you give an inspiring presentation? I have a couple of tips. The first thing is, or the first mistake we make when we're presenting, is that we are actually having too much slides and we talk the whole time. If we have an hour, we talk for 50 or 55 minutes, and there are 5 minutes left for discussion, for Q&A. A couple of years ago, I met a Swiss professor who is specialized in how can you give impactful presentations to managers and executives. And based on all the research that he has done and all the experiments he has done over the last couple of years, he has created a very simple rule of thumb that says that if you have an hour, you should only spend 20 minutes on doing the presentation, on talking with slides. 20 minutes should go into letting people discover some of the insights, quotes, numbers that are behind the insights that you just showed. So you showed it to them, they can see it with their own eyes, and they can do some reverse engineering what's behind the kind of insights that we just saw, what's behind the recommendations and conclusions that we saw, and they get that feeling that they are discovering it themselves. You get that feeling that they almost co-created with you those insights. And then the last 20 minutes should go into discussion. What does this mean for our business? What does this mean for our company? And what can we do next? So that's a very easy rule of thumb. But this means that you only have, if you have an hour, 20 minutes to present. That also means that you can only have a maximum of 20 slides, 1 slide per minute. That means that you cannot show them everything. You need to curate. And probably you can only show them the insights and bring then the insights to life. Because that's the second thing we often do wrong. We have 50 minutes to present in that hour, or that's what we think, and we leave the best for last. We first tell everything about the methodology, then we dive into all the results, and at the very end, in the last 10 minutes, we share the insights, the conclusions, and the recommendations. So it's almost like what people really come for is at the very end, and they should take all the other minutes and make sure that they don't fall asleep. When I was presenting this in a workshop in company, there was a lady and she said all of a sudden, "You're right, Tom. We should always remember that doing a presentation is not like doing a striptease. The best part shouldn't be at the end." And I think that's one to remember next time you do a presentation. Not only spend only 1/3 of your time on presenting and create room for really workshopping with the people, but also make sure you don't do a striptease. Start with the insights. Bring then the insights to life, because you only have 20 minutes. The last thing that we tend to do is we do the presentation and then we give every attendee the deck, the PowerPoint report of 50 slides, 75 slides, 100 slides even. And we can be very happy of one thing, and that's that PowerPoint reports cannot talk, because if they would say that they are very, very lonely. Because it's almost an illusion that if you give people that presentation, that deck, if you send it around over email, that a lot of people will open it and really go through it and read all of that. So we need to think, what's the thing that we leave behind after a presentation? And for me, that's not a PowerPoint. It's more like a working tool. This is an example of something we created a couple of years ago for Heineken, the beer company. And it's not a presentation. It's more like an interactive infographic. And it talks about the ideal night out of millennials. So what you see here is that in 6 steps, we take people in 6 sceneries almost, and you see the dancing scene on the screen, we take them through a night out. And for every scene, we talk about what is the importance of this moment in the total evaluation of a night out, and what are the insights and what are the opportunities for the company. So if you here would click on the dancing people and on the red kind of buttons on the dancing people, you would see insights popping up. So that's more like a working tool. That's something that people can use over and over again in their day-to-day job. And this is a digital tool, so it can talk and it can tell us how many people are really using it. And for this one, we saw that it was used over and over again while people were turning the insights into action. And that's what you want, but they will never do this with a traditional PowerPoint report. Finally, the last step is activate. So you make people curious up front, you do a great presentation, an impactful and inspiring presentation, and then afterwards you need to remember people of the message and the insights you have told them. So it's very important that you create some kind of afterlife for your presentation. This is an example from a study we did for Viacom, MTV Networks. It was millennials around the globe and what's their kind of urban lifestyle. And one of the things that came out of the study, it was a community piece of research, was that we understood urban lifestyle through the places that millennials were where they were eating, where they were shopping, where they were entertaining themselves. And we thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting if we create city guides? Because it was a study that was done in total 15 cities around the globe. Wouldn't it be interesting if we create like little city guides for those 15 cities that were in the study, and in those city guides we indicate the places that the millennials told us they were shopping at, they were eating, they were entertaining themselves in. And let's give those city guides to the senior executives. So when they are on a business trip, they can go to some of the places that are mentioned in the city guide and literally immerse themselves into the world of their kind of target audience. Which is great, because when they are there, when they are at those places, they are remembered of the study. They even see some insights with their own eyes. And we literally saw that when people were doing that, when executives were doing that, when back on the plane back home, they were literally taking the study and trying to see what can we do. So not only think about how you can create that mindset up front, also think about how you can inspire people during the presentation by talking less and sharing more insightful things, And last but not least, think about the afterlife you're going to give to your study. To summarize this, what are the 4 things that are, let's say, the things that you need to think about, that you need to remember if you create your next presentation? Well, create multiple touch points. Don't share your message only during the presentation. Do something before, do something afterwards. Secondly, make sure that all the things that you're sharing are short and sharp, snackable content. Or attention spans are shorter and shorter, so that means that it should be short bits and pieces, like a 10-minute survey up front, 3 parts in an hour of 20 minutes of presenting, of workshopping, and then afterwards a couple of kind of small bits and pieces that you share again with them to remember them of the message and the insights you have given them. It should be curated insights. You cannot share everything anymore, so you should decide what is it that my client or my internal client needs to see. You curate the insights. And last but not least, make it experiential. It's not just sending that message, it's creating an experience. It's allowing people to step into the shoes of their customers through such a kind of little survey. In the presentation, they should work with the observations that are behind the insights. And afterwards, in the activation bit, you can send them into the world of customers. This was my presentation. If you want to know more, feel free to join me, to join SMR and all the other SMR members during Summer Academy in Amsterdam or SMR APAC conference in Macau.